Just some breaking news. The US Coast Guard intends to have a media update for us on that submersible, 5 men trapped in that submersible. That media conference will be Australian Eastern Standard Time at 10 o'clock tonight, so in about an hour and a half. On the timing of all of this, at 9:08 p.m, the suggestion is, and again, that's Australian Eastern Standard Time, at 9:08, that is the time when it's tipped that the oxygen will run out. Now, it's about 8 a.m. or about 7:30 a.m. In that part of the world right at the moment. So it's dawn, there is sun up, and that search is now very intense. It's not looking good. They've been missing now for a couple of days. As we know, they were diving on the wreck of the Titanic, and that air supply will run out in about 40 minutes' time. Let's go back again to Rex Patrick, former senator, and more importantly, not that he wasn't important as a senator, submariner, and he's on the line for us again. Rex, it's looking pretty grim, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, look, I don't think there's much hope at this stage. 2 days ago, I was on Sky with Danica, and I said that, look, it's a really, really challenging situation. I think the reality is we are now moving to a recovery phase rather than a rescue phase. The air that they had was a best possibility. That doesn't take into consideration what may have happened, a loss of power, a fire where the atmosphere is contaminated, or worse still, a flood. I think we now need to recognise we're going into a recovery phase, which will be a slightly different set of operations to what is currently taking place in the Atlantic now.
What did you make, Rex, of the sonar buoys picking up that banging sound? I've seen various experts today suggesting that was an SOS that is arranged if a submarine is in some sort of trouble. They do it on the hour and half hour, and the certain number of bangings on the side of the particular vehicle. Clearly, at some point, they were trying to be rescued, but I have had no update on whether that noise is still being picked up by anybody.
Yeah, my understanding is the noise has stopped. It's always difficult when you're listening to sonar noises, although a bang is from something like a hammer or a tool on the pressure hull, or in this case on the titanium front of the vessel, is normally relatively distinctive. What will happen is that the sonobuoy recordings will no doubt be back in the either in Canada or the United States, where they can do very detailed analysis on what the sound is. But the fact that it stopped, I think, is another sad sign. Again, I think we'll now switch to searching for the submarine on the bottom somewhere with a view to recovering it.
It's probably too early to start talking about, what went wrong here, but there's been various experts today, Rex, suggesting that this was not particularly well built, that one of the things about it is that you can't even open a hatch on this thing from inside. That's not particularly unusual, though, is it, on something like this?
Well, look, I have experience on a naval submarine, and I know that if there is a problem on a submarine, there's a number of different ways to get a submarine to the surface: by pumping water out, by steering the boat up using the propellers, by bowing main ballast. And then if those things are not working, then there's things like rush escape options. There's 5 or 6 options available before you get yourself into a position where you say, I've got nowhere to go now. In this instance, it appears as though they had really only one level of redundancy, one level of safety. That was, in this instance, dropping some ballast in the hope that would bring them back to the surface. Just looking at the vessel with the equipment on board being off the shelf, in a military submarine, a lot of money is spent to make sure that, for example, the equipment, when it burns, doesn't give off toxic fumes. Now, that costs money, it's expensive, but that's how you do underwater operations properly. You've got to spend money, and you've got to be mindful of safety at every step.
Well, it's clearly an adventure that's gone wrong, and it's very sad for the people on board and their families. Rex, Patrick, always a pleasure to catch up. Thank you very much for helping us out again.